welcome to the Shaping Success podcast with me, your host, Wes Tankersley. I'm a former high school teacher and baseball coach turned motivational speaker. Today we'll be with Mike Nelson. We're going to interview Mike Nelson, a former radio host who works as a realtor in Idaho Falls. We will discuss with Mike who he is, how he's branding himself on social media, and what his definition of success is. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about our show sponsors here. Aggressive Marketing Solutions is the sponsor for this episode and future episodes. One of the things we need to remind you is that people spend more time on social media than watching TV. The hard truth is if you're actively marketing yourself on social media, if you're not actively marketing yourself on social media, you're losing out. If you like this podcast and are interested in developing your social media presence, then Aggressive Marketing Solutions can help you reach your goals. If you're struggling to see results, text WES 2020 to 541-709-6502. That's 541-709-6502 today and set up your free consultation. Aggressive has helped me out, and if you're willing to put in the work, they can help you too. So without any further delay, here is Mike Nelson.
Wes,
Mike,
it's a pleasure. How are you?
Good, thanks.
And
how's it looking over in Idaho Falls right now?
Last I checked, it was 8. It was 8 degrees. We have 8 of them. And I know Boise is always 10 to 15 degrees warmer. You were grilling last night, right? It was like 50.
Yeah, but I'd be grilling if it was snowing too, so I'm not scared.
Same. I've got the backup tank in the garage. I'm ready to go. You let me know.
All right. Yeah, well, I got about 3 barbecues on my patio because I don't mess around, but we'll get her hand.
You know, the only thing we have that I don't know if you have, we have that, Idaho is shaped like an L, and we have that bitter wind coming from the west across the Idaho desert. And you can grill in any degrees. You can grill in 20 below. But if it's windy, sometimes that just, it either blows the flames out or you got to spend 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things that they talk about here. I've never really had any issues with it, but I use a Pit Boss pellet grill, and they make blankets and things like that to go over the top of the grill so that you can keep it going. So that's one of the things sometimes you got to do, but I don't ever have to do it. It's not that cold here, at least not for the last couple of years.
Yeah, right.
We've been blessed with a couple of
we've had a couple mild winters here too.
Yeah. So, well, Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the Shaping Success podcast. This is kind of where I like to kind of point out to people that I've seen, and it's really awesome to have you on here. One of the things that I've known since I started marketing on social media myself and everything is you're always there supporting me. You're also very creative in your posts, and that was really exciting to see those kind of things happen. And so it kind of inspired me to do a lot more than what I'm doing. I obviously am not as creative as you, but I just keep putting stuff out there because that's what I do.
And I don't know if it's a matter necessarily of being creative, but just being yourself. And that's what I admire a lot about what you do.
Yeah, well, it's like we talked about a little bit on the phone yesterday. It's one of those things where I've gotten used to it. So I'm pretty excited for everything that's happening. It's been a really great experience. So I'm glad to have you supporting me and everyone else that does as well. And you're pretty inspiring. So let's get started here. What I kind of want to know is I want to know a little bit about you. I kind of want you to start from the beginning and kind of tell us where you're from, a little bit of your background and information, because we want people to know her as well.
Okay, let's see if I can encapsulate I'm 49, so let's see if I can encapsulate it in as many seconds. Born in Virginia in 1970, moved to California when I was 3 or 4. Don't remember, I was 3 or 4. Moved to Idaho Falls, Idaho in 1977, saw Star Wars at the Paramount Theater in downtown Idaho Falls. Obviously, that was a memorable experience. I was the 7 years old in 1977 club. Um, and let's see, I grew up in a private school, got a great education, learned zero social skills, was thrown into a public school in junior high, kicked out for fighting, back to private school,
Wow.
kicked out of there, um, back to public school, finished at Idaho Falls High School in 1988, and then immediately got into radio. I went to Seattle because that's where my grandparents lived. And my grandmother actually, I wanted to go to art school. I wanted to be a graphic designer. And my grandma said it was too much money. So she said, you know, you've always been really good at talking to people. Why don't you go into radio? So I ended up getting an internship at KJR Seattle, Channel 95 AM. Nobody knows what that is anymore. And and then wanted to be on the air. So I realized, I got to go. The way broadcasting works is you got to go to a smaller market. So I came back to Idaho Falls, Idaho, started at a station called Z103 in the spring of 1989. And I worked 10 years in top 40, 10 years in sort of a transitional format known as hot adult contemporary, and then 10 years in adult contemporary. So it's funny, my career sort of followed my demographic. I started playing pop music, and I ended playing, well, still pop music, but for that older demographic, Maroon 5, Girls Like You, without the Cardi B rap, like you can listen to it with your kids in the car. So that was the spring of last year. I decided, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. For about 3 years, it became a pretty unfulfilling experience. And I thought, well, what would I do? And the joke is, in real estate is for people who, don't want to work for anybody else. And, and that's where I found myself is, yeah, I don't know if I can work for a, Clear Channel or iHeartMedia dropout. I don't know if I can work for that kind of corporate culture. And so I made the decision to do real estate, and I instantly regretted it. And but then
Wow.
because it's not what you think. It's
Yeah.
not what you think at all. It's not just showing people homes and collecting a commission. It's a lot of work. And I never thought of myself as 100% commission-based salesperson, but that is technically what I am. I think what I really am is somebody who helps people with their goals. And every situation is different and unique. And so yeah, to find myself in a situation is kind of bizarre to me. I just want to crack jokes for a living, but real estate is a very serious business. And yeah, so that brings us to today.
Well, you're pretty good at cracking those jokes. I know we've talked about this a couple times because I really your barn thing is just hilarious. I show that to anyone that ever will look at it, and my daughter loves it. We talked about it a little bit last night how that's like her favorite thing to do. She likes saying that every time we drive by a barn. She's like, "Dad, barn," and I just bust up laughing thinking of you. I mean, when I walked into that Walmart and I saw that gingerbread house that was the barn, I had to get it because I wanted to I had to show it to you. So it was kind of funny. But there's some pretty cool things that you do that I think are just awesome. Your Halloween with the Walking Dead guy was awesome. I mean, there's just so many things that you do. It's crazy. And I
see,
just
Wes,
talk.
that's why.
So.
and that's why you're my tribe. The funny thing is for years I've been part of research studies and perceptual studies, and as a program director and operations manager, I was accountable to general managers and vice presidents of programming and regional VPs and format captains and owners of the company. And I can just see that corporate boardroom. If I were building my brand for anybody else, I could see a couple of stuffed shirts in that room going, well, now, Mike, that video, what does it really have to do with real estate? Don't you want to promote the fact that you're there to help people buy and sell homes? And the thing is, I followed my heart. I was driving around one day, and I'm like, I see so many barns. I've got to take some pictures of these. And I thought I'll start a barn blog, or that'll be my Instagram thing. And as I'm driving toward this one barn, because sometimes they're hard to get to from the highway. So you drive down one country road and realize it doesn't connect. As I'm driving to it, I keep going, barn, 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 gosh, barn it all day. And that my mind's a complete blank. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do. And it is one of my most watched videos. Probably half of them are yours and your daughter's. So
yeah, you're probably right.
And what I guess I would argue to a boardroom unsuccessfully, by the way, would be, look, this establishes the fact that I see a lot of real estate. And isn't that kind of what you want in a real estate agent, is somebody who, oh yeah, that barn, it's X amount of square feet. You can put 10 horses in there or whatever. So that's the subtext of the video. But the purpose of the video was, if I'm going into business for myself, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think that I know that because I've been through, and I've watched you, and I've watched other people too. But we're like we talked about, we're branding people, we're branding ourselves. People are not going to buy from the company that you work for. They're going to buy from you as a person, because you are what sells you. And so, I'd be the first person I call, but that's because I see you are, and I know that that's your brand, and you seem like the kind of person that I would want to buy from. And that's what I do. That's what I try to do daily. Try to make it so that people see that I'm an actual person and I have purpose, and it's more than just, hey, I want to sell you something. I want to buy from an honest person, someone who has kind of the same values and morals and things like that I have.
Exactly. Somebody who speaks the same language. I believe there's a few mega agents and mega groups here in East Idaho, and they've got their systems down. It's interesting, though. There's a lot of duplication of effort, but it's just interesting to watch. When you have a team of 20, 30 people, that's probably bound to happen when the same group will ask you the same question 3 times, and one hand may not be communicating with the other. They're all great, don't get me wrong, but I think business boils down to, do I like this guy? Do I trust this guy? Do I want to spend 6 hours in a car with me, my spouse, my family, looking at homes? Do I want to do business with this guy? And I don't mean to bag on the business that has so welcomely accepted me into their arms, but I think from an external perspective, from an internal perspective, it's very exciting. Every day is a new day and new challenges and exciting stuff. From an external perspective, I believe 3 things. I believe that most people think real estate is boring. Now, that's not to say anything of HGTV and house flippers and $1 million listing. But how often do you think about houses? I think the second thing is real estate. When I'm in it, when I'm on the couch watching TV, when I'm with my family. And that's what I try to focus on, is the lifestyle stuff. So I think the second thing is real estate agents, again, from an external perspective, are boring. How's the market? Well, a balanced market is 6 months worth of inventory, and currently we have 1 month of inventory, so it's a seller's market. So what that means to you is, people don't, the joke in real estate is, the minute people find out you're a real estate agent, they say, how's the market? I haven't had one person say that to me. And I'll tell you why I think that is. Because they're not asking, how's the market in general? They're asking, what do the current market conditions mean to me? If I'm selling my home, how much am I going to get for it? If I'm buying a home, am I going to get totally obliterated in this seller's market? So that's the second thing. And I guess the third thing that I would say is, nobody thinks about a real estate agent until they desperately need one. Think about it. This is the most important financial transaction of your entire life. And you don't have a Rolodex. You don't have a list of contacts of people you want to help you with this. So I believe that it's sort of my job to stay top of mind until they do desperately need a real estate agent. And then I'll be there to help.
And that's the thing. That's, and this whole marketing thing that I watch, and like I was telling you, I see like my feed. I know how it works. Like I know that I am posting all day long. It's just what I do. Like when something shows up, the only time that it kind of gets, I don't have like set times that I do it, but I'm trying to roll in the feed and keep people seeing me so that when they do need blinds, they know who to call. And that's kind of the same thing that
Exactly.
you're doing. I feel like.
I
So
think
can you
out of
kind of
the hundreds of posts I've seen, I think I think I've actually seen blinds like twice, maybe 3 times, and all the rest, it's you. And I'm like, I like that guy. Then mission accomplished.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, and I don't know if I didn't talk to you about this before, but I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk all the time. I talk about him in my posts, I talked about him in my videos and all that stuff. And that guy, he just made so much sense to me in the last like 6 months. It's just like he's got this book called, and I haven't even read it, but it just totally makes sense. I heard him talk about it because all he does is talk about the same thing over and over again, and people don't understand. They don't get it, or they just don't care to do it. But his book is called Jab Jab Punch, or Jab 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 Right Hook, and I'm jabbing all day long, and then the right hook is, hey, I sell blinds too, and that's how I do it. I
Right.
kind of alternate. I probably put in a blinds thing about once a week because I don't want people to forget that, but I also want them to know who I am, and so it's not as important that they know what I do is that they know who I am, and when I tell them, then they're like, oh, I could use that. So
Yeah, exactly. I
that's the
think a
real
lot
thing.
of real estate agents, yeah, sort of make the mistake that, well, let's see, what do? I do real estate, and what does real estate involve? Just listed, open house, under contract or pending, just closed. So, who's
Right.
that message for? It's either for past clients, current clients, or future clients. Do you really think that a past client is going to be surprised or interested or fascinated by the fact that you are still engaged in the business of real estate? Do you think current clients, maybe they're going to, check you out and vet you a little bit through your social media and see that that's what you're doing? Do you think future clients, do you think there are people right now looking at your feed thinking about houses? And again, this goes back to my theory that nobody thinks about real estate until they desperately need it. So I guess I feel like the expectation of a realtor or a real estate agent is to engage in the business of real estate. That's just, I just assume you know what you're doing. You're licensed by the federal government and the state government. You're with a responsible broker and a brokerage. Other than that, what's more fascinating? And I'll tell you, and Wes, I think you nail this. By just putting yourself out there. I think it was Woody Allen who said half of life is just showing up. Show up, stick that
Right.
camera in front of your face, and broadcast on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. You're all over the place, Facebook. And then the other part is, creating content. You have to have a wellspring from within yourself coming forth, that passion, that life force, that opinion, whatever it is that you have that is uniquely yours. And you've got that.
Right.
And then I would say probably beyond that is, and I've stolen a lot from my 30 years in radio. The number one rule of broadcasting is know your audience. What's your target demographic? You know, um, is it first time home buyers, 18 to 34-year olds? And that's the age of acquisition. Is it the age of upgrades,
Right.
25, 54? I'm going to serve these people who are getting out of their $200,000 house and into a $500,000 house. Those people who are taking those secondhand sofas their parents gave them and trading them in for Italian leather sofas, trading their Honda in for a
Mm-hmm.
BMW. So know your audience and then appeal to them. And I would say there's a number of different categories, a number of different ways you can appeal to an audience. And I'll just list them really quick. If you can make it emotional, A plus. If you can make it local, how does this affect me currently in my town, in my life, in my home, even? Uh, that's an A. Maybe an A minus would be timely. What's going on right now in the world that I can talk about? Topical. pick that topic that everybody's discussing, that everybody wants to hear more about. So what is that? Emotional, local, timely, topical, relatable. And Wes, that's where you shine. That's what I love. You are so relatable. I look at you and I say, okay, here's a guy who's self-motivated. He's given me advice. Sometimes I feel when you give me advice, when you speak about things that are important to me, I also get the feeling that you're speaking about things that are important to you. Like, he's talking to me, yeah, but he might be talking to himself as well. And I find that so that connects.
And that's what I love about what I do. You know, and you're right. I mean, that's 100% right. Like when I get on there and I pop up a video, it is basically what I'm thinking about. My process is kind of crazy. Like sometimes I wake up in the morning and I get up early and I drink some coffee and I listen to Gary Vee's podcast every single morning. And then I'm going through my social media, trying to make sure if I need to answer any comments or talk to anyone. And then usually from that, I'm inspired. I hear something that relates to my life and what's going on. And then I'm in the shower thinking about what am I going to say in my video, and how am I going to say this? And then next thing you know, that's what it is. It's related to everything that I do. And I think that a lot of people relate to that. And that's what I think is great about the whole process. I do a live video. And like I was telling you, I don't listen to them ever. I mean, I've gone back a couple times and saw like some of the beginning ones versus now. And it's nuts, the amount of change there is. But yeah, I think that being relatable is really what it's about. I mean, that's a great way to do it.
Well, let's go back to reviewing the tape, because in radio, in radio we air personalities or disc jockeys. They don't jockey discs anymore, but we talk about how we sort of perpetuate the notion that what we do for a living is just goofing off. But really, there's quite a science to it. And for the first 10 years of my career, I was just a dumb jock. And then I realized, oh, the money is in being a program director, an operations manager, and being in management. And so I got to go from being a wacky radio morning show personality to a program director who got to coach other talents and bring in personality coaches from all over the country. I've worked with some of the best: Tracy Johnson, Casey Keating, Lorna Osmond. I don't know if those names mean anything to anybody, but some of the best in the business, Brian Kelly. And one of the things that they sort of talked about was, everything that I've mentioned, but when it comes to reviewing the tape, that's all we had to go by. So we would sit in meetings and literally press play on a cassette recorder back in the day, and then eventually an MP3 playback. We would listen to when you're on the radio. So Fallon, Kimmel, Conan, they all have 10 minutes of monologue a night, and then they bring some guests on. Radio morning show people, they have, I don't know, 5 minutes of pop, 5 times an hour. So there's a lot of content, a lot of time you have to fill, and it is all disposable. It was such a weird feeling. Here's a sidebar. Going from a small station in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and that's market 185 or whatever it is, to Salt Lake City, which is now market 29. And in broadcasting, market size is everything, and they vet you harder. You can make more money. There's ratings bonuses, but it's harder to break into. They're kind of snobby about it, especially when you're from a small town. And what's funny is these days anybody can have a global audience, even if you're in Poughkeepsie, Peoria, Paducah, Pocatello, wherever you are. So when you finally break out of a small market and go to a big market, that's all you have is a tape of yourself on the radio. Sure, you've got a resume, but you've got a little demo, a little MP3 that you mail.
Right.
So I have spent most of my life reviewing the tape. So it's so hard now to create content and not go back and watch it and listen to it and, oh, I could have done that better, and what was I thinking there, and I need to lose 10 pounds. So mad props to you for not focusing and dwelling too much on that.
Well, and it's hard too. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I've talked to people about this multiple times where they sit there and they talk about how they review it. And really what it boils down to is we don't do anything then we never make the step that we need to make. We never get on there. We never post, because I've done it a couple times. I've recorded the video and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I can delete it. But if I'm live, it is what it is. And so that's what I really like about live. It's like, if I mess up, who cares? What are they going to do? Go back to it? I mean, I can't go back and change it. It's
make
there.
Fun
it's
of me?
been on the airwaves. Yep. And that's one
Right.
of the things that I've really been working on, is not being, I mean, I'm still insecure about some of the stuff that I do, but I've tried very hard to like just let that go, because it's not necessary. It's like, they're usually, when someone's making fun of you, they're making fun of you because they're scared to do it themselves. And so that's just, luckily I haven't had a whole lot of that. So it's been kind of nice.
Right. I think one of the best memes I saw, and I speak in memes, and so I'm so sorry, but one of the best memes I saw about that topic was, hey, you never see somebody more successful than others making fun of them.
Right.
If I were to, and by the way, I'm not a big sports guy. I know you are, baseball in particular.
Yeah.
So I'll never make a sports analogy except for maybe this once. If I'm playing football against the the Kansas City Chiefs, if and it's just me running a touchdown play, and of course they'll obliterate me and destroy me and leave me bloody and broken and bruised and on the field. When they go to score that touchdown against me, they're not going to do a dance. They're not going to celebrate. It's just a given that they're professionals at that. Why would they spike the football in the end zone when they're playing against me? So, yeah, that's sort of, I'll be honest with you. If I have a fault, I'm sure I have lots of faults. Let's get my wife in here. She'll tell you all about them. But if I have one fault, I'm kind of catty. And honestly, that's why some clients absolutely love me. They're like, hey, what do you think of this house? I don't know about that. So, they know I'm going to be honest, but I've really tried to, in the last few years, watch my cattiness and just make sure that, hey, am I putting somebody else down in my mind to make myself feel better? You really got to watch that. You can't do that.
Yeah. And that's, we could talk all day about that. It just is what it is. It's people they don't know any better. And so they find a way to just, this world spreads so much negativity, and that's all we see all day long. And we can't look for the positive stuff. And that's really where my mindset's changed, is trying to find that positive thing. So,
right.
Let's talk about how, exactly. Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about where you're at, like with your social media marketing, because I know a couple months back, I was like, hey, where else can I follow you? And I followed you on a couple different platforms. I've watched you on Instagram the most, I think. And then I've been on with Facebook, and I see you on Twitter. TikTok's kind of this new thing, but we always talk about how that marketing thing where we're trying to relate to those age groups. And so, maybe it's different for you than me, but with me, I'm trying to hit every age group, because I know that even though on TikTok we got 14, 15-year-old kids on there, it's the age group is changing. Plus those people in 5 years from now, I'm looking at the future, will be people who buy from me. So how do you look at that, and what are you doing with all that?
Well, yeah, great question, by the way. And an even better question is, when you asked me, where else can I follow you on social? I was like, oh man, this guy gets it. In fact, I stole that line, because, I went from, again, a 30-year career where I was the star and I got ratings, and I opened the mic for Alanis Morissette and Panic at the Disco and Katy Perry on stage, to, I was used to collecting the audience. Now I'm the audience. Now I'm your fan. Now I'm the fan of potential clients. And so that was a weird paradigm shift for me that I've made just in the last year in this new career. But yeah, let's talk about social media platforms and demographics. You hit it on the head. TikTok is 12 to 17-year-olds. That's the Mountain Dew, Taco Bell, Doritos demographic. And today's 12 to 17-year-olds are tomorrow's 18 to 34-year-old consumers. They're going to get into a brand new home. They're going to need some blinds. I'll sell them the house, you sell them the blinds. You know,
Perfect.
you will both provide services to these people, but they're so important to engage even right now. So yeah, of course, Facebook and Insta are the big ones. So this was weird. You know, I've handled different brands my entire life. Z103, Top 40, Star 102.7 in Salt Lake City, today's best, I don't know, mix or whatever it was. 99.1 WMYX in Milwaukee, KLCE in Idaho Falls. The responsible choice for adult listening. So I've handled a bunch of different brands and appealed to a bunch of different demographics. So it was really weird a year or so ago when I said, okay, what am I going to do? Real estate. Okay, who am I going to be? And the fact is, you can be whoever you want to be. I want to, if there's one takeaway from this entire thing, you are whoever you say you are. So I thought, I want to come from a position of help. I want to come from a position of value first. You know, I think that in terms of reputation, maybe there's used car salesmen and then real estate agents are right up here for whatever reason. And I know I didn't really trust real estate agents either. When I bought my first house in 2004, I told the guy, I'm not going to sign anything with you. And he went, okay. And I thought, oh, maybe I like this guy. So that's when I came up with Mike Helps Idaho. And the first thing I did was check the .com. Of course, it was there. So I'm like, okay, Facebook, yep. Twitter, yep. I think I got Pinterest, Snapchat. I don't use them at all. They're a wasteland, but the important thing is I claimed the real estate. So in case I ever do want to use those platforms. And the one thing we learned in radio is, you know, radio is the worst at putting a huge priority on things that come and go. At the very beginning, I struggled in 1994 to convince my general manager to pay $25 to register a website, z103.com. And then, you know, okay, we understood the value of websites. And then in the late 90s, we got a blog. Everybody's got a blog. You got to make sure you're blogging. Then YouTube comes along. Oh, you got to be on YouTube. Everybody's got to be on YouTube. Why? What are you doing there? That's so important. And I think the thing we found in our perceptual studies was people will be, you know, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google. That's why Google bought them. That's one of the reasons.
Right.
But you know, when you're going to fix your lawnmower, how do I tune up my lawnmower? In 2 or 3 minutes, I became an instant expert, went to Home Depot, got my stuff, came back and tuned up a lawnmower. So you want to be where the people will be eventually. And that's sort of my feeling about social media. So I got the Mike Helps Idaho brand across all platforms. And we have another expression in radio, play the hits. And that means don't be Jack Black and High Fidelity going, hey, this is a really good record, man. You should listen. What you want to do is you want to play the songs that will get you the most audience the fastest. Play the hits. Right. And so I realized pretty quickly, okay, I'm able to manage 2, maybe 3 social media platforms. So of course, the 2 big ones, Facebook and Instagram. I never had an Instagram account. I'm an audio guy. I'm not a visual guy. Well, come to find out, real estate is a very visual business, kind of going back to knowing your audience. What do they want? What do they expect? And that's, I think, a very important part of social media is fulfilling brand expectation. You know, I just started a thing where with every closing, I'm giving $100 in your name to charity. And, you know, because the brand name Mike Helps Idaho, that's great. Mike Helps Idaho do what? Well, buy, sell, invest in real estate, do the contracts for you, avoid the pitfalls, show you homes. Okay, what else? Well, yeah, you know, we're going to start. And this is just a, you know, $100 out of every closing is nothing at this point. That's just a small start, but I want to make sure that I start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. So yeah, Wes, that's really circling back to your original question, which is, what have I done in social media in the last year? And it was weird and bizarre to build what I realized is my own brand on all these platforms. And to serve that brand name. And I think I told you at the beginning, from an outside perspective, real estate seems kind of, I hate to use the word boring, but unless you're buying or selling, and then you're absolutely fascinated by the process. So what do I believe my job is in the meantime? It's to engage, and that's where I've lived for 30 years in my previous career, is get an audience, engage them, grow the numbers. And so, I'm not on fire by any stretch of the imagination. I think I have, at last count, 675 followers on Instagram, 725 likes on Facebook. But and it's the funniest stuff, right? Let's talk about so that's platforms. Let's talk about content. Stuff I never thought would ever be a hit, I guess, to use a radio term, has 2,700 views and 25 shares. Like on a snow day, I posted a picture of a kid crashing into a fence and the snow falling down. And that just went all over the place.
That was pretty cool.
You saw that? Yeah. Well, okay, here's what's funny. I saw it on an internet website probably 2 months ago. And I actually said to myself, save, rip, whatever, throw it in my camera roll. I said, that's going to be really good if we have, like, maybe not the first snow day, but the third or fourth or fifth in a row. That would be really good. I think I mentioned earlier, one of my rules I call it the content filter: emotional, local, timely, top relatable. And when you can serve timely and topical in there, and local, because it's snowing outside, the weather's local, you really hit on a bunch of different buttons at once, and you can get that kind of engagement. More engagement, I would say, than this property was just listed. This property is under contract. This property just closed, So,
and that's what
content,
you see. That's all you see with real estate. It's like, hey, I closed this. Hey, I sold this. Hey, here's some pictures of the inside of this house, and that doesn't. I'm like, oh well, that's a cool picture, but what am I going to do with that? I mean, I don't need a house right now, and I want to know more about you.
Right. Yeah.
And we're visual.
Yes,
that's the big thing, is like, it's so visual. And so in social media, that's what's so cool about, like you said before, you're behind this mic, and I applaud you, because you realize that you have to go and you had to make a change, and that was just the way it was. And we have these people that, as a teacher, I'm sitting in here and I have kids in my class that just have a phone out all the time, and you can take it away from them or you can use it, and that's all they do. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're looking at this. They don't have to interact with someone. So your way of interacting is by watching a video of it, or seeing a picture of it, because they're not going to talk to you face to face. And so we got to change with that, or we're going to be obsolete.
Right. Every older generation bemoans or mourns for their children and the society that they're going to grow up in. And it's funny. Again, another meme, you've probably seen it, where some teacher 100 years ago was talking about kids these days rely too much on paper. What are they going to do when we run out of paper? And the point was, chalks and chalkboard are where it's at. And so I don't want to go too far down the road of, oh, today's kids will never know the joy or the pain of being bored. But yeah, if you're just sitting there consuming content all the time, where are you going to develop those social skills? I already have noticed in my, in 2020, most people over the age of 25 that want to buy a home would rather message than call. But sometimes you can get so much more done in a call. Sometimes,
exactly,
no amount of emojis will allow you to convey the kind of emotion that needs to be conveyed in a message. So, where are we heading with this and this society and the, constantly needing to be entertained or consume content? I don't know. But I know that I think charisma, I don't want to say it's going to die out, but I think it's going to become more and more important, and when I say charisma, just the ability to relate to other people and think, oh, this guy gets me, and and I'd like to do business
Right.
with him. I think that's going to be an important trait in the future.
Yeah. Well, we could sit here and I could talk to you all day about this, but we're gonna run out of time. And I really enjoy the conversation. I do have I don't want to cut it short, but I do have one more question for you, because this is called Shaping Success. That's what the podcast is called, and I want to give you a little context to that. We talked about it a little bit, but success for you, whatever that is, it doesn't mean it's different for everyone. Some people, hey, I got to make a lot of money. Some people want to have a certain job, whatever that is, and that's really what it is. What is the shape of your success? So my question to you is, what do you call success? What is your definition of success?
Boy, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? I guess
Yeah.
I'm a very literal person. So I would refer you to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I would say that at the very bottom are physiological needs. You need to breathe, you need to take nourishment, and you need to excrete. So as long as I do those things at the bottom, yeah, there's love and relationships and self-esteem. And then at the very top of the pyramid, the very little, tippity toppity, is a thing called self-actualization. And that's when you get to be the person you were designed to be. And honestly, when we talk about needs, mental and emotional needs, one of my biggest needs, I think, is to express myself, even at the risk of not being understood. And Wes, that's back to the barn video. That's why I so appreciate you and your daughter uh, saying like that. That's it. Because I expressed myself in a weird, wacky way that really doesn't matter. It's 30 seconds of your life you can never get back. And so, yeah, self-actualization. And I got to tell you, it's hard to be self-actualized when you're not your own boss. And, for 30 years, I really enjoyed a radio career, and I thought that I was free. I could say whatever I wanted, whatever I was feeling. I could go in and lay it all out there on the microphone for 4 hours a day. But, working for myself and taking the risk, seeing the reward, and I'm sure there are some people who won't want to do business with me because of the way I am. They might want somebody who dresses more responsibly, or has more experience in the business, or has more connections. But I'm sure that because I'm throwing it all out there my way, that some people will want to do business with me. And you know what? Come to find out, those are the people I want to do business with. So what is success? Self-actualization in my book. And yeah, a beach vacation, but that doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, well, that comes after. That's kind of the thing about it
Right,
with
exactly.
me too, is that it is what makes you happy, and that stuff will follow. And I appreciate that. It's so funny that you talk about that stuff, because that's all they talk about in college: self-actualization and the pyramid and all that stuff. I mean, it's funny because I have 2 degrees, and I'm just like, am I going to ever not hear the end of it? And you know exactly what it is. So that's awesome. Um, I do appreciate you being on here. I wanted to have you tell us where we can find you, as far as like social media, because you talked about you're on there. Where's the best place to find you? Your handles, things like that, so that we can get those out to people and help you get a little bit better following as well.
Oh, thanks, Wes. It's Mike Helps Idaho, anywhere you want to look. .com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Hit me up if you're in the East Idaho area and you need some help, just some advice with real estate. Let me know. And Wes, what a pleasure! I look forward to continuing to watch you and everything that you do on a daily basis as well. Thanks, man.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to kind of get that feedback from you and see that, because I really, like I said when I talked to you yesterday, I knew that I wanted to have you as a guest. So I'm glad that we were able to do it.
The pleasure is
So I'm
absolutely all
sure
mine,
we'll
my friend.
we'll
Thank
talk
you.
again. All right, Mike. Well, thank you very
Sounds
much.
good.
It was great having this interview. We'll talk soon.